Saturday I can legally drive, and I can't. Saturday I can legally drive. But the doctor said I could drive. But the therapist said the 14th, and then they come and give me therapy, and they said, "What are we here for? You don't need therapy." I mean,
It's 9 o'clock.
is it 9 o'clock? It's 9 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Move the agenda.
Support.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The agenda stands as printed. Approval of last month's minutes. Is there support? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved as printed. And then we have approval of the August 14th. That's under there, okay. Limited public comment. Any limited public comment? No limited public comment? MXU Extension, you're up.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, in your packets, you have quite a few pages from me, and I apologize for that. However, what we aim to do, obviously with the agreement between the county and MSU Extension, is to provide programming in all four areas or all four disciplines: agriculture, agribusiness, that's one, children and youth, community, food and environment, and then health and nutrition. So I thought it would be good just to print out, since the last time I was before you, just the meetings and programs that have taken place that Eaton County residents have participated in. So you've got the number of participants. A lot of those, there's just one. Some there's 14 or 15. But then there's also the hours that the program lasted, and then the total amount of contact hours, which is, to sum it all up, that's on the first page, over 264, or I'm sorry, not over, but 264 different type programs, close to 1,000 participants, total actual hours of programming, 1,232, and contact hours of 5,139. And that's made up of programming of related to 66 different programs or meetings in agriculture and agribusiness, 67 programs within the Children and Youth Institute, and that's not including FAIR and whatnot, but that's different. Like you'll see in some of some parenting hours, that's our whole youth development and child care experts that are teaching some of those classes. Then the community, food and environment, which is what a lot would say is natural resources, but also finance and that type of thing. So we had 51 programs there. And then health and nutrition, which is things besides SNAP education, matter of balance, Tai Chi, sleep, I think, of some of the different programming that some of our general health practitioners do, and then an additional 18 different programs related to SNAP education. And a lot of that happened in some of the schools, and you have those listed there. So that's just a demonstration of programming in each one of the institutes and participation from our county residents. I just wanted to highlight, and that's something that you can click on, and it's, these links are live. As far as Heather Dyer, she's in the office. I don't talk about Heather that much. She does a lot of in-her-room film editing, but is responsible for social media. But just an idea of some of the indirect aspect of the programs that we have as well that are not direct programming, but someone goes on there and they get information about healthy summer treats to eat and feed their kids, those types of things. So trying to hit things from all angles. One helpful video that I've used a lot, and I have used through corn season, is You take an ear of corn, you cut off each end, stick it in the microwave for 2 minutes. If you have one ear, and it'll be perfect every time. Just wanted to pass that on. I use it continually. That's an easy way to grab corn. It's getting a little late for that now, but it's an easy way to grab corn and bring it to the office and have a good snack that way. But just helpful videos like that. Heather's responsible for a lot of that. I wanted to point that out. As far as the fair itself, it was another successful fair. There were $427,000 and 368 in bids, actual bids. That represents over 300 entries into the fair. So as far as those folks who are involved in the fair, and especially through 4-H, also FFA is involved, but most of those entries are also 4-H. Another successful aspect there. And some of the programming goes to that 365 days in the year to prep those youth for the fair so that they can do a good job. But obviously 4-H isn't just about that, but it's about many other programs. But I wanted to give you an update on that. So with that, and as you're scrolling, if you have a question about a particular meeting or program or anything else, I thought I'd give you a little different update this time where I actually gave you the actual programs. I give you samples, or have given you samples in the past. I thought I'd actually print it out since our last meeting, because it's kind of helpful.
Is there any questions?
Yes.
Blake.
I just wanted to say that I was at a meeting yesterday and I met the new president of MSU.
Okay, good.
Very interesting fella. And I asked him about MSU. My only question was MSU Extension. And I just said, you talk about all these new programs that you're doing and all the future. And what about Extension, I asked. And he says, that's an old program, but it's got a lot of new things happening in it. And I think his words, we're very proud of the programs they've got and the outreach that it has. So it was good to hear that the administration is still firm and strong behind your programs.
I think he is, yes.
Any others? Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your
Have a-
day.
Have a good week. Construction code.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're having continuing conversations with the Windsor Township for them taking over their own permitting and inspecting. We have a meeting with the state of Michigan on October 9th. Brandy and I have both been asked by the state to attend. So neither one of us will be here on the October 9th meeting here. I don't really know where that's gonna end up at this point. The township supervisor that is gonna be taking over isn't sure that that's the proper thing to do for the township, so. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be up to the state commission whether they accept the Windsor Township application at this time.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just real quick, Chris, so what is our role in this? I mean, are we spending a bunch of time on something that we shouldn't be?
No, I'm really not.
Okay. I mean, I understand that you're trying to be
Yeah.
helpful, I'm guessing, to the locals, which is,
I am, and I'm trying to stay neutral because if they have every right to take over their own permitting and
Sure.
inspecting.
yeah.
The existing township supervisor wants it. It doesn't sound like the incoming township supervisor is sure that that's the right thing for the township.
You should probably stay out of it.
I'm trying. I'm really trying. But, and it's ultimately gonna be up to the state commission. The township has their application. If they have everything in order and the state commission says they're good to go, then they're good to go.
They've already gone through their legislative process to do it, so it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
It's pretty unlikely that the state would put up any roadblocks if all things were in line.
that is correct. Yeah, and I have talked to some of the people at the state, just to get advice. If they go through with it And the new township supervisor and the township board says in 6 months, this is ridiculous, it's bad, it's not working, whatever. The issue is it doesn't come back to the county. It has to go back to the state of Michigan, and they would do the inspections for a year, and then they can turn it back to the county. So, and it makes it very difficult for contractors and residents,
I
so,
think the locals would be really disappointed if that happened.
yeah.
Waiting for the state to send out an inspector
Yeah.
is gonna be a lot different than waiting for someone from Shalat to do it.
Well, and I can tell you that the state doesn't want it either. So it's just, I don't know, it's gonna depend. I think what they're trying to do right now is ask the commission to just put the application on hold because we're so close to the changeover of supervisors. But there's no guarantee they'll do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry. Contractor breakfast and zoning workshop, that is going to be October 22nd. It'll be for trade contractors, so electrical, mechanical, and plumbing.
Is that like we've had before out there?
Yeah,
That was really nice. I thought that was very well done.
yep, this one's just, it's not gonna have builders, it's just gonna have the trade contractors. I figured I'll probably alternate, next year we'll do one for the builders because their code. This year, we all got new codes, plumbing and mechanical and electrical in March, so it's a good time to sit down with them, and if they have any questions or anything, we can go over that. In the afternoon, we're planning on having a zoning workshop for all the zoning jurisdictions in the county. They'll all be invited. Sit down, have conversations, talk about, our differences as far as their zoning differences, ours, why we do things the way we do, why they do things the way they do. I also want to thank Adam and Haley Alvenshine for donating their building out at Hidden Creek for us to use. We both, Brandy and I, really appreciate that from them. Excuse me. I think it's gonna be at 8. I haven't set the time yet. It's usually around 8:30. We can probably do that.
You can probably smell them.
The other thing is we've sat down with the city of Shalat, regarding zoning. We also sat down, Brandon and I did with the new city manager, had a really good conversation. We've spent a couple of meetings with Windsor Township, the supervisor and the assessor. I have sat down with the incoming township supervisor. She's just, asking questions of what to expect. We did go to Calamo Township's meeting, talked about enforcements and asked them if they had any concerns this month, so, other than that, if you guys have any questions.
Any questions, comments? Yes, Brian?
Quick, not to go down a wormhole here, but is this the Windsor Township issue? Is this just the prerogative of the supervisor? This is all we're dealing with? What's the quick
Well, the board
context
had to, the township board voted on it
Okay.
too.
Obviously, they wanted to go a certain direction, and now you got an incoming person that didn't want to go in that direction.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's kind of the hang up at this point,
Sure.
and we just don't know what the state will do.
Yeah. But the board and the citizens of the township have given the direction that they want.
I don't know about the citizens.
Well, I mean, they would have had to vote on that, right?
No,
Oh,
it was just the township board that,
because they're already charter.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And from what I understand, there are citizens and contractors that work in the township that would prefer for it to stay the way it is.
Yes, Blake?
Well, and just on the bigger picture, the whole idea, I've seen it drift, over the years, drift in and out. Townships didn't, and villages did their own, found it to be cumbersome, changed back to the county, and then they drift out, they want to do their own. And it creates a lot of disharmony, because generally these smaller townships and villages, we're the backup for them.
Right.
And sometimes, talking about Oneida Township, mine, our guy was the backup for you in certain areas,
Right.
you know? And there was a lot of cooperation and interaction, and I don't know what the future holds when you don't have that cooperation.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, you got these little townships or villages, and they have one inspector, and the inspector goes on vacation, and suddenly they have to get backup, and they don't have the capacity for that.
Yeah, and a good example of that right now for us is my plumbing inspector's out. He had a hip replacement. And Delta Town, we have an agreement and arrangement with Delta Township, so their plumbing inspector is helping us out.
Right.
And we work well together. I've done electrical inspections for them when their electrical inspector's on vacation and things, so.
Well, and that's what having a larger group of people working in concert really makes it better for all the citizens. And I'm concerned that I don't want to get into a spot where we have these fractures that people don't work together. And I don't know how to stop that, and I don't know what you can do about it, but I
Try to
urge you-
prevent it.
I urge you to try to prevent it, because in the long run, it's a lot
Yeah.
better for everyone if you can work together and you
Yep.
can cover for each other.
Yeah, and that's, we'll go back to the city of Charlotte. We had a really good conversation with the city manager and things went really well.
You want something?
You could probably, we had talked about if communities come and go like that, that we could explore like contractual
Yeah.
services. So if they left and came back, we'd like to have a set period of time.
5-10 year agreement.
Because
type
you
of thing.
guys make budgetary decisions for staffing his office based on demand. And
Correct.
so like how you're saying, if the demand is waffling, it really impacts your ability to be able to staff his office. So, but that would be in the case where it's we're in, we're out, and yeah.
Right.
So that's something he's been talking about.
I have.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the same line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you done? Okay, Ryan.
Good morning, Chris. Hey, on
Morning.
this contractor's breakfast, why did you choose not to invite the builders to this breakfast?
Well, we just did one with them last year. And like I said, all of the trades have new codes, which the trade contractors didn't come to last year's. So I wanted to get something put together for them. If all goes well, by the end of the year, this year, or the beginning of next year, the new building code will be out. So I figured that would be a good time to have another one for the builders.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Do you have anything else for us?
I do not, unless,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome. Done? Okay. Recycle?
Good morning. Jared Bogdanoff Hanna is out ill today, so I will be reading his notes for you. The Department of Resource Recovery is in the process of developing the hub and spoke model for resource recovery and recycling in the county. The plan involved aggregating materials at a recycling sites called spokes throughout the county and transferring the materials to a central site called a hub to be sold to manufacturers of recycled materials. This work is being done in parallel with the materials management plan. Data analysis is being done to determine current volumes and capacities along with future volume and capacity based on population fluctuations and recycling rates. The analysis will determine infrastructure needs for the county, with funding being sought through Eagle's infrastructure grants and the anticipated material management plan funding through Eagle. We had 2 haulers that were in compliance scheduled for hearings today. LeBron Trash Hauling emailed me a copy of their reporting and a copy of their check yesterday afternoon. So for LeBron Trash Hauling, we're recommending that we once again postpone their hearing to October 9th to ensure that we actually receive this that we have the email of. Liberty Environmental Landfill is currently still in noncompliance, and I do not believe that they are here at this time. Failure to complete the reporting process within the requested timeframe resulted in the hearing to be scheduled in front of this committee. The department has continued to attempt contact with Phil Baker of Liberty Environmental Landfill. Therefore, the noncompliance hearing scheduled for today will commence, and the Department of Resource Recovery recommends ticketing and imposing fines on the hauler for noncompliance.
Have you had any contact with them at all?
Yes, yes. So, I have it all right here. I had spoke to Phil Baker on July 31st. He had informed me that he was having some health issues and that he was going to request some extra time. So we agreed to, he had been scheduled, there would have been a scheduled hearing. The first scheduled hearing was in July. We agreed to, no, I'm sorry, August, the August 14th. We agreed to suspend that to give him a little extra time and rescheduled for September 11th if he didn't comply within that time. So we gave him the extra month. I spoke to a staff member of his on September 4th. The staff member said that he wasn't able to come to the phone, but he said to give me a message that they would be here before this hearing. It isn't. I checked the mail today. I've been checking my email as I've been sitting here. So,
Do we know how large an imprint they have on the county?
less than $100 was the last one, I believe. It is very small, very small. I would dare say we spend a lot more money chasing this particular company because this company is twice a year. Twice a year we do this. We do it with the licensing and both reportings. Generally, what they do is they email it the morning of the hearing. So I was fully expecting it to be there this morning. Yeah, I'm sure we spend more money, I mean, probably just in certified mail to them than what we're ever going to recoup.
So they don't have a lot of customers in Eaton County, I take it.
Well, we don't have a mechanism really to check that. I can, pull up what their past reporting forms are, and they've always been small amounts. What they have roll-off dumpsters that they rent. Yeah, they are a landfill, yes. But they also have roll-off dumpsters and I think storage containers, but of course, it's only the roll-off dumpsters that would be under our purview. I do have from their website, their area of service, which I could pass it around. I have it here and then I have it blown up a little bit so you can see it better. That clearly shows portions of Eaton County within their area for providing dumpster services. To the best of my knowledge, these are one-time dumpsters. I do not know that they provide like monthly dumpster service.
So it would basically fluctuate. If I decide to clean out my basement, I get a dumpster, that's what you're talking about, then they'd haul it away and that'd be the end of it.
Yes.
So the process here, this is a hearing. Do we have to close the meeting and open a new meeting or open a public hearing is what we got to do here and make some sort of determination?
Technically, it's not a public hearing, it's a non-compliance hearing.
Okay.
So you don't have to do anything special other than give the trash hauler the opportunity to speak, which they are not here.
And if we rule against the trash hauler, basically we can issue a citation?
Correct.
And the citation amount is for how much, or don't we know?
$500.
$500?
The solid waste ordinance gives us the authority to issue the civil infraction for noncompliance. The noncompliance hearing is an opportunity for the trash hauler to come in and talk to you and kind of state their case as to why they haven't complied, to see if you would be willing to give them an extension or whatever you may choose to do with it. That's the purpose of the hearing. So, but the solid waste ordinance gives us the authority to ticket.
Did they get notice of this?
Yes, so they have received 3 certified mailings. They received a certified mailing for the original, with the original application. They received a certified mailing for the August 14th hearing date, and then they received a certified mailing that explained the conversation that I had with them and that the date had been moved to September 11th. I also have called them, I have a list, I've called them multiple times.
I would just, if you're gonna have a hearing like this, it's important to, the record reflect that the individual, especially since they aren't here, got notice, because that would always
Yes, I
be
do have, and I have the signed receipts from when they signed for the letters. I don't think I put them in here. I could get them if you wanted to see
No,
them.
that's fine. That's fine.
The letters were sent certified, correct?
Yes, and they were signed for by Liberty Environmental Landfill.
You're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I mean, this is a repeat situation for these guys. They're not new to the county. They know what's going on. I would move the recommendations of the Resource Recovery Department twofold. Number one, recommend delaying the hearing for LeBron Trash until October 9th, I think you said?
Yes.
And also to move forward with the recommendations on ticketing and imposing fines on the hauler that remains in noncompliance, Liberty Environmental.
Okay, it's been moved and supported.
I really think that they ought to be two separate motions. Since we're gonna be assessing fines on the one, I think it should be a separate motion.
I'd be fine separating that. I'll make the motion to, my first motion then would be to extend, or excuse me, delay the hearing for LeBron until October 9th.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
And now, Madam Chair, I will,
Yes.
I will make the second motion to follow the recommendations of Resource Recovery and our ordinance and impose fines and ticketing on the hauler in noncompliance, Liberty Environmental.
Is there support? It's been moved and supported. Ryan? Oh, yes. You had a question?
When did they receive their latest certified mailing notice of today's hearing? Like, how many weeks ago? Like, when was the first time that they were certified mail
For
notified of
today's
this?
hearing.
Yes.
August 21st was when it was mailed. I thought I had put the. Yes, I mean, they do this twice a year, right? So the reporting was due July 15th. So as I said, I do have the return receipts. I put them all together in a nice pile and apparently left them on my desk.
So in that July communication, they were aware of if there was no reporting, then this trial would have happened.
Yes, in the letters, I can't speak to how seriously they take this.
Well, we can't assume that, but it's just
Because
like,
we
when were
haven't
they
really
first
ticketed
made
it.
aware that today could have happened?
That would be July 19th when they received the first hearing notice for August 14th.
And this was already postponed because of the health issue.
And then that was postponed because of the health issue. We really do try to work, and create a more positive environment with.
Yeah, and I
with these
appreciate you giving
callers.
the leeway with the health issue, because that's just not something that I would have thought was fair. But I mean, we're now another month in, and you talked to the staff person, and the staff person should have communicated to whoever. So when did you last talk to that staff person?
That was on the 4th of September, and they said it was on its way.
Okay.
Yes, Blake.
And in terms of what they're, just remind me for sure, that have they paid for their license this year?
Yes.
Paid for their license, but they haven't, what we're finding them for is their report for how much they've used.
Surcharge that they have taken in, yes, yes.
And that usually goes for around $100 to them in the past?
I mean, it can vary, but I don't think it's ever been greater than 500.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, the fine is gonna be more painful than,
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, thank you.
And there's also been 5 business days that it would have made it here via mail when they said that it was in the mail, right?
Well, I would have to pull open a calendar to see that for
But you last
certain.
talked to the staff person for
Fourth,
Liberty,
yes, so yes,
and they said that it was on
that
its
would have
way.
been 6 days ago. Wait, today is the,
In the past, we have also allowed them to take a picture of the check before they mail it to suffice for notification, to
Right.
not have a public hearing as well. So if they didn't put it in the mail, they know they've done it before. They could have taken a picture and sent it to Debbie.
right, like I said, usually we get an email the day of, and this happened at the last, with their licensing and the second quarter of the 2023 reporting. It came right up to the last minute.
Well, in our staff, I mean, Debbie and everybody before Debbie, I mean, we've always bent over backwards to try to make it easy for these guys and help them out. And, I feel that we don't do this unless we absolutely have to. So with this recommendation from the staff, then that tells me that they've gone as far as they can go at this point in time. And likely, we may get payment next week, who knows? But before this goes any further, hopefully that's the case.
I agree, we never want to do this, and we've only done it once that I know of in the entire history of this department. I just don't know what other option we really have at this point.
You still have your motion on the table to vote on, Barb.
What now?
You still need to vote on that motion.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if there was any, okay? Okay, are we ready to vote on a motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Do you have anything else for us?
Yes, let's see here. Read the rest, I'll continue with the rest of Jared's notes. The department is analyzing the data from the 2024 recycling events. The department is still waiting on official reports for household hazardous waste to complete the data set. Preliminary data shows the events have been very successful this year, congruent with historical data. Household hazardous waste recovered 50,000 pounds, electronics 53,000 pounds, and scrap tires 80,000 pounds. The department was able to recover a total of up to 200,000 pounds of hazardous or recyclable materials in the county, providing up to $150,000 of value to the community.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We've all got it in front of us.
Okay, so is there anything else on here we would like to openly discuss then? Like we have the infrastructure grant, the rural recycling electronics grant, and the material management plan.
I'm curious, do we have any idea, you say the electronics was 53,000 pounds. Do we have any idea of how many items that was? Just out of idle curiosity?
We do have it broken down by item into pounds, so we could do an estimate that way, but not a specific number of, 500 LCD TVs or,
Okay.
but when I could come up with a pounds for each type of material, other than, of course, the miscellaneous materials.
Because sure that's well over 1,000, maybe 10,000 items that we're talking about, because most of them aren't that heavy. I mean, I'm thinking about it.
We generally fill up a full semi-trailer and then some, they bring a backup, smaller trailer.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan?
And this, under the project, 50,000 pounds, the equivalent of $67,000, is that revenue or cost to the counter?
These are Jared's notes, so I did not do this formulation. I think I would have to defer to him, because I can't speak to how he came up with that number.
Well, it's not costing the county 67,000.
Well, that's what was my question. I mean, did we gain that in revenue, or did
Might be the value of it.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, did it benefit the county?
I
Been the
think,
cost. We haven't spent $67,000 on anything.
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
but again, I cannot directly speak to his calculations. I believe it has to do with value to the county residents who brought stuff. So maybe what it would cost them if they had to take it someplace that charged them for it.
Okay.
Debbie, do you know what the county's cost was for that particular program?
We have not received the last bill for the household hazardous waste. So we were going to give those numbers next
Okay.
month.
So
So that we could
next
give them
month, they'll have
all
a breakdown
together.
of the actual cost of it for you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? What else do you have for us?
Yeah, all right, thank you.
I was going to thank you, yes. If you're, okay,
Opportunity to get off the stage.
Parks,
Morning, everyone.
morning.
My name's Alex Zagorzuski. I'm the new Parks Director here for the county. Very glad to be here and just want to give you a kind of a brief update how the past couple weeks have gone. As you know, our Parks Department is now fully staffed with all our full-time employees, with myself assuming my role and Clara Alderman taking the events coordinator position. So for the past several weeks, current staff members, Ethan and Ben and Claudine and Chad have kind of given us a rundown of how operations, everything has been working so far. So we're just getting acclimated to our procedures and policies and all that for the past several days, in the past month for Clara. So overall, I've had the opportunity now, Ethan has given me a tour of all our parks. We haven't done a walkthrough of our trail systems just yet, mainly the Thornapple Trail and, how do I pronounce the other one? Dwayne Terrell. Those ones we still have to do a little site visit, but for the rest, we've done some extensive walkthroughs to look at current projects and stuff going on. So overall, our Parks Department, with continuing efforts to continue our progress with our capital improvement projects, we are placing the emphasis this fall season of being present in a lot of the community events going on. So we have a lot scheduled for end of September and October with Trick or Treat, Halloween, and some fall festivals coming up, just so we have exposure to the surrounding communities, and hopefully that leads to a boost in visitation and in our parks and with our program registrations. But obviously, just my first couple weeks was really kind of diving my toes into the water here, learning everything we got to offer. So if there's ever a time that you want to personally sit down and talk with me, please don't hesitate to reach out. But at that time, I'm going to let, Ben is not here today, so Ethan is going to take the reins of kind of going over our current projects, giving you guys all updates. And then at the end, if you guys have any questions for us, we're all here to answer it for you.
I would just add Alex is being kind of modest. He went through and did most of those walkthroughs on his first day here. So even on the first day, he hit the ground running and he was out in all of our parks. He's met with all of his staff. He called the controller's office and talked to Miss Sobey and asked if he could come out here and meet with her. So he's already taking on a lot of initiative. He's already looking forward to things we could do in our parks from his walkthrough. So he's being kind of modest for his second week on the
trying to
job,
be,
just to let you know.
But I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The problem with hitting the bar so high on your first day is it kind of gives you a target that, you know.
Morning. Hey, so for Ben's report, the Lincoln Brick Interpretive Center, we're going to be having windows and exit doors put in on the museum side of the building at the end of the month. The Lincoln Brick residence demolition is scheduled to take place. The abatement for the asbestos will happen on September 16th. Well capping and demo will be September 23rd, and then expected project completion, that'll be on October 1st. The Fitzgerald Park Stairs, Johnson Hill Land Ethics Studio. We've gotten a quote from them, correct?
They are engaged in engineering, so we've approved
Yes.
the engineering portion, so they've started geotechnical.
Okay. Yeah, so they're going to be submitting a design to us, and then hopefully in spring 2025 is when construction will start on that project. And it'll be ready for 2025 summer. Then right now, the Fitzgerald Park Nature Center has been condemned, and we're going to be putting, getting ready for contracts in the future. And then we included a map of Keeney Park. We, since the last quote we got, that I think came in at around 600,000, we've changed the design a bit. So instead of having a boardwalk that goes all the way over to our secondary parking lot, we would just have one single boardwalk that would connect the current loop that we have. And that new quote came back at 76,000, roughly. And we think that that'll also kind of cut back the level of vandalism that we've been seeing, because there'll no longer be an access point to the abandoned cement factory where a lot of those activities are taking place. Yeah. Then for winterizing at Fox this Thursday, that's our plan to kind of winterize those bathrooms, get everything ready for the end of the season. Fitzgerald Park, that'll be October 1st. The Dwayne Terrell Roadside Park has already been done, and then the Fainer Dock will be pulled out on October 1st as well. Then for our report, the Lincoln Brick Interpretive Center, with those windows going in, we're hoping to start building exhibits during the winter season, and then Capital Masonry will be working on the ruins on September 23rd and 26th in an effort to make those safer for the public, so they can actually like explore the ruins and not worry about getting a brick on their head. Then programming. Claire and I have been really working hard to develop more kind of passive programs that the public can take place without a staff member being involved. So we're developing scavenger hunts. This winter we're going to have some ornaments, Christmas ornaments hidden in the park that people can go and look for. We're trying to build partnerships with a lot of the libraries in Eaton County. And then events outside of Eaton County Parks. Alex had mentioned that we're trying to be more present in some of the communities. So currently we're signed up for a professional development day with Eaton RISA, and that's on this Saturday. Then October 5th, we'll be at the Grand Ledge Fall Festival. October 21st, we'll be at Charlotte's Downtown Trick or Treat. Still waiting to hear back from the city of Grand Ledge, but I believe on the 25th, we will also be at the Bridge Street Trick or Treat, and we'll be in the Charlotte Holiday Parade, as well as the Grand Ledge Light Parade. Events we have coming up, we're going to be doing a campfire night at Lincoln Brick on the 28th, Timber Trail Run on October 12th. We'll have a bat event on October 12th as well at Lincoln Brick Park. And then we are working with the Grand Ledge Library to get 2 more events going for the winter season over at Lincoln Brick Park. Last spring, I worked with a school and the DNR on a program called Salmon in the Classroom, which pretty much at the beginning of a year, classrooms will get a set of Chinook salmon eggs, and then all throughout the year, they will raise those salmon, and then they release them in the spring. So we have updated our website, and I've talked with Tracy Page over at the DNR, and we have officially been made a spot for classes to come and do a salmon drop. And when they do that, we'll also be providing a lesson on aquatic macroinvertebrates, so they can kind of learn a little bit more about the aquatic habitat that these fish are going into. Then, like I mentioned before, we're partnering with more with libraries. On September 5th, Claire and I met with Maura Carter, the Director of Youth Services at the Charlotte Community Library, and she had expressed a lot of interest in partnering. So we're probably going to be setting up a few more winter programs with them. I know they have a STEM club, so I'm going to be going down there a few times to give lessons. And hopefully we can actually get some people out to Crandall in that way too, because I know that they also have a nature club or a craft club that has gone out there before. Mapping, John and I are still working on improving our map system for our parks. I think the goal is to by spring 2025, have a new map system that we can put on our new pamphlets, as well as an electronic version that the public can access. Then trails and natural resource management. Now that Alex is here, we're reopening conversations with the forester to kind of help finish up the cleanup at Lincoln Brick from our storm that we had in last August. And then we're going to be meeting with the state resource conservationists from the Natural Resource Conservation Service to discuss the history of controlled burns at Lincoln Brick Park in an effort to reestablish a seasonal burn for that prairie to kind of make sure that we're maintaining its health properly. And then on top of that, we're trying to kind of make the parks more festive, so we're going to be putting up some decorations. And that's all of our current stuff. Looking to the future, let's see. This fall, we're going to be doing some invasive species removal, and on top of that, removing some trees in order to use those trees to help boost the fish population at Crandall Lake. We've been working with a fisheries biologist at the DNR that has given us some resources on how we can effectively do that in a way that's not going to get in the way of the public enjoying that lake. And then spring of 2025, we're going to be working on getting a kayak storage and a rental program at Crandall Lake. So the idea with that is that we'll have these lockers. If people put money in, they can rent a kayak without having someone on site to do that for them. And then they'll just put their kayak back. And probably, if you want to speak on that.
Yeah. And then the concept of a kayak-like locker system is someone obviously who's not looking to go down on river trails. If they just want to permanently keep their kayak at the location, we'll devise and build a structure that they can purchase. It's their responsibility to store and lock up their kayak. That won't be our responsibility, but pretty much they rent a locker space and they can typically or theoretically keep their kayak at Crandall Lake all summer long, and then just show up, unlock it, go out and use it, lock it back up. So hopefully it's something that we get some interest in and some use out of this spring, so.
And then after this meeting, we have one of our last meetings with Williams and Works to discuss final plans for Crandall and Fox Parks. And correct me if I'm wrong, Claudine, but we should be getting that final plan October, right?
October to look at for adoption in November. Yep.
Okay, perfect. And then we are reviewing a request by the City of Grand Ledge to extend their awarded community grant. Any questions?
So, oh, sorry, Blake. I was going to talk about the grant extension.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Grand Ledge, as you recall, has the development right out in front of Fitzgerald Park. It's their ball field Phase 1, as they've called it, and they are not quite complete, as you are aware. I think I've reported on before, they had a lot of challenges getting that project started and off the ground, and Commissioners Augustine and Mulder can probably speak to that too if you have questions, but they are requesting an extension. If you are okay with that. The staff does not have a problem with it. We've looked at it, just kind of making sure that that's okay with you before we move forward and give them that information back.
Do you need a motion for that, or is that just something that we just can have a consent?
The grant guidelines say that it'll be up to the grant administration staff, so we don't technically need a motion, but we did just want to run it by you and make sure you were okay with that.
I mean, they're making progress over there. It's just.
Yep, they are.
It's been slow, and what can you say, you know? I mean, when progress is being made, you've got to say, well, it's taking a little longer. I get that, and they got a ways to go yet.
Yeah, as long as staff doesn't, you guys don't have any concerns about it.
No, not at all.
Makes sense
Okay,
to me.
thank you.
What money are we talking about?
Oh, gosh, I think that grant was like 200,000 off the top of my head.
30?
Two something.
To build a ball field?
It's a whole development So it's a whole development, so it was a lot of groundwork, and then they had to create the parking lot and the parking. I believe the problem they're having now is with the actual construction of the ball field, is where their delay is now with engineers and stuff.
How many ball fields are they building?
3, I believe.
Long-term plan is 3, but this is just the first.
Okay. All right, thank you. Maybe they should
Ryan?
get John Smoltz to come in, because he built one out around Lansing that,
Concerning Caney Park Boardwalk,
Yeah.
is there, the total here, the quote is 76,000. That's for removal of the old boardwalk and construction of the new, is that correct?
Kind of. We will be removing the old boardwalk in-house.
So the 76,000 just for construction of the new?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna replace what you're removing with another boardwalk, or is it gonna
No.
be another path?
So
That's
if
my
you,
question.
if you look on,
They have the map up on the
Believe-
screen, Ethan.
yeah, perfect.
We're looking at it.
So, that white line, or at least it's white on mine.
There's no
There's
way.
no
No
white,
color.
no white line.
Okay.
So there's a key on the map. So the red line is the portion
Yeah,
that'll be
oh,
removed.
yellow, okay. The yellow line
Yeah.
is, that will be the new and only boardwalk that is included in the
So
76,000.
the access will still be where it is.
Yeah, so the main access to Keeney Park will remain there. What we will be removing is, what color is that one?
Red.
Red. Red. The red line that takes you over to the smaller parking lot, that is what we will be removing.
I thought that was kind of wet in there, and why there was a boardwalk.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do, tromp through the mud to get back there? What's the story?
So
That's my
our,
question. I mean,
our
you're
right
removing the
there-
boardwalk, and how do you get back
yeah.
there?
Well, we're kind of hoping that people are not going to go back there. We're gonna keep that small parking lot, and the idea is to possibly put a small fishing pier, so people can still enjoy that area, but that boardwalk is really where a lot of our vandalism is coming from, and when they use that boardwalk to get over to the cement plant, where a lot of these activities are taking place.
when you
Not
say
our
that
property.
to replace that would cost over $200,000 or something?
$600,000.
Sorry?
$600,000.
$600,000. So
Yeah.
we're trading $76,000 short span that's yellow or some color, and not spending $600,000 on the other span. That's why they're doing it. I mean, that cost is just outrageous to me.
And we think too that by doing that, it'll get more people involved in our actual trail system that we have, just because it's nicer.
Yes.
So just a couple of quick things. So just to be clear, when you said that you don't want people going back there, you're talking about the part where the red line.
Yes.
That's the area that we want to avoid. We want people to use the trail, the blue area. And then just to follow up, so the blue area is currently a trail and is going to continue to be a trail. We're just proposing to put the new boardwalk in yellow to get access to that trail. Let me ask this question, is it possible to make the end of the trail a loop, so where the blue meets the red? That way
Yeah.
it actually loops around instead of just ending, because if it ends, then somebody may be more likely to continue onward, I guess. Whereas we just direct them back, that might make more sense.
I think that we could definitely do that.
Okay.
I've walked that area a few times and it's not wet in that spot, so we could easily.
Just a little clearing and make that part of the trail. I think that would be a good idea, just to.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Brian?
Back to my point, I appreciate the discussion, but back to my point. The reason this is coming out, the red portion, is because of vandalism. Do we have insurance to cover part of that, or are we on our own?
Yeah, was a question. Do you have an update at all on where we are with the insurance claim? It takes a quote, obviously.
Yeah, no, I'm still
Yeah.
working on that.
Okay.
I mean, there's like, I don't know, close to 1,000 feet of boardwalk there and half of it was vandalized. So I'm working on getting quotes for insurance. And to Ethan's point, and part of the reason is we have good parking on the east end where the blue and yellow is there. The backside there is kind of where some of the nefarious things have been happening. People park and there's no lights, and it doesn't even get to our property. They're using that to access to get back to some of them old ruins that are north of the park. So if we can kind of deter the parking. We put a gate up there now currently because that boardwalk's closed. Deter activity. We've heard from neighbors over there that a lot of stuff's going on and similar to, you know, do we want to put cameras up there? So we're looking at all these options. But to get that current one back to operational, I mean, it's a considerable amount of vandalism they did, so.
That was my portion of my question up too, is whether we're gonna install cameras back there to.
And that's something that we can discuss, look at, if that's, I think that backside there, that west end was kind of a secondary, the focus of the park in the natural area is actually on the west, or the east end, excuse me. And as time went on, because it was a wet spot, I don't know if volunteers put it in or if we paid for it, but that part, the boardwalk was put in. And it's just became an area to where now you gotta walk a long ways to get there from the east side. So if we kind of control the traffic there and keep people out of some of the areas that were experiencing the problems, then maybe that will deter some of the issues we're having.
And lastly, there was a YouTube video that came out back in, I'm gonna say early August, maybe late July, about a guy that walked that whole trail and videoed 2 weeks before the vandalism. And then he went on into the ruins, the concrete stuff. Is there a fact, well, two things here. It's not our property, obviously, so we don't have to worry about liability issues, but is there some way to put a fence up there to keep parks people or parks visitors out of that ruin? And who owns the ruins and what's their responsibility?
So I don't know the answer to who owns it or how much the township owns, because I believe we lease it from Bellevue, either township or the village of Bellevue. There's a lease, but I don't know who owns or where that property line lies and how the liability. But yeah, there's definitely old buildings that have, you know, fallen in on themselves over the course of time, and people get back there and there's needles and drug paraphernalia, and it's a rough spot that we don't want to, you know, send a family of hikers back there to, you know.
It's been an issue for years.
Yeah, so would it be worth our effort to put up a fence to separate that ruins property from our parks property?
That's definitely something we can look into.
I mean, I'm looking at all this that we're looking, I mean, the $76,000 quote plus the $70,000+ for the vandalism that we had repaired before. Vandalism's starting to cost our parks department quite a bit of money. I would hope there's gonna be a way to recoup some of that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ethan, but won't redoing the trail like we're talking about cut off access to the cement factory? So we won't need to worry about fencing it because we're talking about cutting access off to it with redesigning the trail.
Well, watching that video that guy put on YouTube, if there's a will, they're gonna get through there. He was talking about how overgrown it was, but yet he continued on.
Well, and I'll be
And I
honest,
did it.
Yeah.
after we do all this, if there's still a need, we could easily put a fence back there.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just real quick, thank you, Madam Chair. The new boardwalk, are we looking at like some sort of a composite, something that'll last longer, or?
That's a question probably for Ben. Do you know what?
Don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, obviously, we want to do something that'll last and not something that's
Yeah.
going to be.
I know that at one point we had talked about that, so.
Okay, I feel like we talked about that in the last meeting, but I couldn't
Yeah.
recall, so.
Any other questions?
Any questions? No?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say if you guys would like, following the park's description, these are our current flyers for some of our events, and Clara is available to give descriptions and help answer questions if you would like.
Yeah, she did a great job with those. They look great.
Good morning again. I'll just kind of jump on what Claudine said about these guys being modest about some of the stuff that they've accomplished here in the last few weeks. The future planning that Ethan kind of skimmed through, I mean, he's got a few pages here of ideas that he came up with in the last couple months that, so he kind of skimmed over that. And then also, if you look at all the events that Clara has jumped on board right away and got going, it's been refreshing. I think most of you guys on this committee and even in the Parks Work Group can attest to the last few months. we've had some pretty engaged staff that, more so than we've seen in the past. So that'll segue into the next part that I want to talk about is over the past few months with Ethan and Ben, we asked them to step up during the interim and fill the roles of essentially running the park system with the oversight of Claudine and I. And they did, and through that process, and we looked internally, came up with some ideas, and we think there's a good opportunity to restructure the department and to make it more sustainable and what's the word I'm looking for? More efficient for the future. There you go. Thanks, Terrence. By tweaking a few things, and I'll let Ben put on his HR hat and kind of talk about that a little more, but with the current staff that we had going into this search for a director, with Alex coming on board and then Clara, it's been a complete 180 from where we were at with parks, and I think that most of you guys can agree to that that are on the works group, work with this team every time we met. It was really a nice change. So with that, I'll let Ben kind of talk about the HR side of it.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, whatever time it is. So want to thank you all. I do, as I have this discussion, want to give a shout out to Chad and Claudine. In the interim basis, we divided up duties in the absence of a director, and they've been doing a weekly meeting with park staff. And so I think part of that energy that you see at work has been the attention and opportunity that's been for ideas to be floated, and then the means to be able to execute them being provided to staff. So very excited. So I want to thank them for helping to carry the department and welcome Alex to the team as well. So what we're going to talk about next with this reorganization idea, from a policy standpoint, you being the policy committee, we would like you to review this, have discussions, but our request would be to move this to Ways and Means so that they can also take action on it as well. So coming into this, we took a look at the Parks Department. We've had 4 directors in maybe 6 years. So as you kind of look at a department, you're like, what is going on? And I feel like we just kept putting people into the same structure that wasn't working. So what you're looking at is a plan based off of analyzing where we've been. Parks in 08 had cuts that took place, and so duties were folded into positions. And after the millage had passed, we really didn't make structural changes to the department in a way, I think, that empowered them to deliver what is the expectation of this body and also the expectation of residents. So that's the impetus for what we have before you today. Every other department in the county is structured where for IT and technology services, when they do their budget, they work directly with Eric Daly and they go through what are your needs and procurement process, and that's all managed by IT. For facilities, it's the same way as well. So they work in tandem with the courts, with the prosecutor's office, with every division within the county. Parks was unique in that their IT was done through the IT department, but when it came to grounds and facilities management, they managed that themselves. So what we identified was we already have a functioning process for capital improvement planning, for budgeting, and for executing projects that every other team is successful in using. We want to apply that same framework to parks now. So the idea being that we would do a restructuring where we would create a deputy director who's the naturalist, so it's still the naturalist duties, but they would be empowered to help with the parks director in executing the strategic plan and all the project development and programming that we have going on at the parks. And then we would move operations for groundskeeping and facilities to report under the facilities director. So I want to make clear this wouldn't be a, hey, we need this area mowed because there's an event, and somebody from facilities crew that works in parks says, sorry, you're not my boss, Alex. That's not what we're talking about. They will still work hand-in-hand coordination in a lot of ways, but the idea being that the capital improvement planning, the implementing of projects, and the managing of groundskeeping would function the same way it does everywhere else. So Parks Operations Supervisor, we would make our current Ben Young's Operations Supervisor. And he would report to Chad and do building and groundskeeping, and seasonal operations would rest there. Seasonals for programming, and the event recreation coordinator will report to the deputy administrative director. We see this as a viable chance to give the parks what they need to be able to capitalize on the millage and start delivering what the residents wanted when they passed that. So this is the plan today. 2 years from now, maybe we need to tweak it or we revisit it, but based on the resources that we have and the needs we've identified, that's what you're looking at. So welcome any questions.
Yes, Blake.
I'll start with, we gave, at Ways and Means, Chad stepped into this position and took a lot of the responsibility, and we actually took someone to cover some of his other jobs. Now, what I want to say is that in this chart, the flow chart, the facilities director is there with the parks operations reporting to him, but I would hope that that wouldn't become a major part of the facilities director's job. I mean, as I see it, Ben would do all the work. He would report to you, but, for you to spend any time on making sure picnic tables are moved, I just don't want to see that
No, you're
fall on your
exactly right.
shoulder.
And that's why we would elevate Ben to a more of a management role within the park system. It would be divided, and then to back up through our union restructuring, or we've elevated some of our contractual employees here to a lead, so they can take on some more responsibility. And so Ben would be, yes, the manager of the parks division of facilities.
So you would back away from.
I would assist
Parks
them
parks.
administratively, purchasing power. We found dumpsters, for example. Parks has a dumpsters contract, I have a dumpster contract. They're paying more than what we are. And I've talked to the waste management, we can get those, so different things like that, equipment. They have a contract at Hudson's, we have a contract at Hudson. It's not.
Too soon, Brian.
So that's some of the stuff that I identify, but the day-to-day operations would be under Ben.
I just do not want, okay, I'm good with that as long as that's how it's gonna work, because
That's
in my
the way
mind, I don't want you involved in any, other than high-level stuff with parks. You shouldn't be involved.
That's the way we envision it, and if it doesn't work, then we'll tweak it, but that's exactly, and it's taken some time, and that's why we wanted to make sure that both Ethan and Ben were on board, because they're gonna get assigned with more responsibility, which they've been doing for the last couple months, so that's all part of this process.
Yes, just before I do want to say, they've stepped up in a big way, including Ben Youngs has developed a few policy initiatives for staff to clarify timekeeping, the need for chauffeur's license, and approving time cards. And honestly, some of this they were doing before, we just didn't know it. So some of this isn't necessarily a full change, it's a recognition of work they were doing, we were just not aware of it. But that's why we have the reclassification process. When you have people that are working outside of the scope, that's where you update it, and that's where we send it to municipal consulting. I'm confident that this will take Chad out of the minutia of like day-to-day operations, but it also builds a bench within the Parks Department. So hypothetically, if we have a vacancy, it won't be a critical event in the future. But Alex loves it here, and he's going to stay forever. No.
Jim, and then. Jim,
I'm just going to be real quick, because I just want to make a comment. I mean, it was unfortunate that we had to go through this, what we did, with, the previous director, but I think we're landing in a better place. And this restructuring, I think, is really good, and this came out of those growing pains, so to speak. And the restructuring process here is only as good as the people running it. And I think we've finally got some really good people in here and able to showcase their talent. So I'm really happy about this and going forward.
You have Joe too, Barbara. Joe has something.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. I'm hiding back here. Couple of things bother me about this. We have parks director that I gather has been with us for, what, 10 days or something? 7 days? Okay. And so whatever input he could possibly give would have been minimal at this point. And generally, we let department heads kind of get their feet wet, settle in, and decide whether they think there ought to be some changes made. And that doesn't seem to be the case here at all. And so that bothers me a great deal. And then frankly, I mean, I wasn't happy about the idea that we were going to spend extra money to do Chad's job while Chad was concentrating on the parks. And what it looks to me like here is that we've now decided, if we adopt this, is that, and you can tell me all you want about the parks operations supervisor doing most of the work. The reality is that Chad is going to now assume the parks into his purview, his department. And so now I'm curious again as to how much he's going to be able to handle the rest of it, what he's supposed to do, since he wasn't going to have enough time in the first place. So I'm not prepared to approve this today, to go on to Ways and Means, to have them approve it on Friday. I'm not comfortable with this at all. I would, if you're going to restructure this department, it just seems to me at the very beginning that when you're bringing in a director, that you give him the opportunity, him or her, in this case a him, the opportunity to look around, see what they've got, and make whatever suggestions they may have as well, at the very least. And so maybe we can all come back next month and look at this again. I don't see any particular necessity to ram this thing through in the next 2 days.
Well, I would say I wouldn't classify it as ramming it through, but I can appreciate your thoughts. You know, previously we did talk about restructuring prior to having a director, and it was requested that we bring a furnished plan, which is what you're looking at. I appreciate what you're saying. Parks director did weigh in, and I'll invite him to come and speak on it himself. But I think regardless of who's in that position, we've had 4 directors in 6 years. Stability in this department has been lacking. I don't care who's in the chair. We know that it's a problem, which is why we developed this. If we had a vacancy in this position, we would have brought it to you anyway. We've had discussions with the Parks Work Group. So respectfully, you are looking at a due diligence document that's taken staff time and thoughtful consideration. I appreciate your point of view, but I want you to know this represents us trying to hit the points that have been requested. So.
Well,
with
that's
that, I'll
all
let
well and
Alex-
good, and he can speak if he wants to. He's been here 7 days, and I mean, these are the people that he has to work with. I'm fully confident that he's going to tell me this is a wonderful idea, whatever he thinks. So quite frankly, having him come up to buttress your comments doesn't change my mind in the least, because I frankly would be stunned if he said, this is a really bad idea, and I'd appreciate 30 days to at least look at it. All right, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can, I came from the city of Pontiac, and in 2010, Pontiac abolished their whole parks department. In 2023, they hired me in to help revitalize that. And the only 2 staff members we had was myself as their parks manager and a youth events coordinator. So my first duties there were to establish a chain of command for their parks department and how operations should look with the diligence and the job positions and all that. So on my first day, Ben called me and we sat down. He was very upfront. He goes, hey, just, we can make changes, take some time. And this is exactly the type of thing that I created in my last position for the guidelines for future development and for the longevity of their parks department. And as Ben had mentioned, I'm willing to give this a try. I think this is exactly something that I would establish. My goal is to not come in here and say, hey, this is how I've done things in the past. I want things done this way. I'm open to interpretation and the guidance from the people that have been here. So I am had discussions with Ben about, you know, let's give this a try and say in a couple years, and we discussed internally as a group as well, that if we need to make adjustments and, you know, like Ben said, in a couple years or even next year, if we see something happen with new positions we want to hire or delegations, then we're open for it. But I think just from what I've created in the past with Pontiac of trying to get them reestablished, if we're trying to make a new, you know, point the Parks Department in a new direction with hierarchy, this is something that like I said, I'm totally on board with. I think it looks good, and I'm willing to give this a try, communicate with Chad, HR, and everybody just to see how things are going. And we will do those updates at, you know, 6 months, 12 months into it and saying, how is this working? Especially if we see that everything's working cohesively or if we're having problems and issues. Then we'll discuss internally how we fix it. But I am on board for this type of realignment, so.
Just right here. Wait a minute, Terrence, right here.
There we go. Got my button to work. So yeah, I was gonna save this question for the end, but you kind of led to it, and I'm happy to hear that you're from Pontiac. I spent a lot of years in the Metro Detroit area, and I love the Pontiac area. So my question was, you kind of got to it, and maybe Ben can add a little bit more flavor, because I know that he does his fair amount of market research, but I see the value in kind of bifurcating the kind of roles of groundskeeping, and like that seems very much in Chad's wheelhouse and kind of streamlining some of those same operations. But have we seen any other municipalities or areas that have like made a shift to this kind of structure, or have always kept it and just functionally like it works well, and like what some of the benefits are?
I can say before Pontiac, I spent the previous 8 years with Delta Township as their programs coordinator. And so our director of the Parks Department oversaw obviously all the park staff. And then we had a lead supervisor in the maintenance department that really, he was in all control of everything maintenance and operations for our Parks Department. And he just reported to our Parks Director, and we just worked cohesively on things that need to be done. But our director over there, his main priorities were and focuses were on programming events within the township, and then just overseeing and helping with developing the plans for like leasing programs with our maintenance equipment and stuff like that. So at least.
And the P word is what I love hearing, programming, is because I feel like that's kind of what, like we have so many assets to leverage in terms of programming. And I mean, you have a great team to do that. And I mean, I've seen kind of some of that excitement come up with the historical assets that we have, and like stuff that like is so unique just to Eaton County that few other areas have. So I mean, to let you guys have more time to focus on that, not to say that like that maintenance is secondary, but like just to give you guys a more clarified role, I feel like is really beneficial.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
And, you know, I'll add to, coming from East Lansing, it's similar as well with a lot of municipalities, but Public Works often manages the maintenance and facilities and groundskeeping operations for an organization. We took a look at Ingham County, and I'm not sure exactly the reporting piece, but they have a bifurcated structure where you have deputy level positions that are in charge of operations for groundskeeping versus the programming piece, and they are different focuses. And the historic pieces we've had since '08, we've been a maintenance parks department. And even that we struggled with. I mean, the list of progress that's been made since May when the vacancy, one of the things they've done is they identified a ton of safety concerns, and they've gone through and just attacked it. And they've done a fantastic job. But even when the Parks Department was staffed and structured just for minimal maintenance and groundskeeping, we were still inundated with deferred maintenance all across the board. So that's the idea with this, is give programming the attention and focus and strategy that it needs, as well as just streamlining the other piece.
Yeah, and to me, we're already going in the right direction when my sister with 2 young boys is already kind of noticing the programming compared to just focusing on what goes on in Delta Township. The fact that like she's recognizing, oh, like they have these things that like my crazy boys can do, cool. Like that's like a win in and of itself, just to get like the folks that should be paying attention. And it's not even been that much time since this change has kind of gone on. So yeah, I think this is positive.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think think both Ben and Trevor are going right down the path, and this is exactly the reason that we have this in front of you. We had a lot of discussion in the work group, and I just believe this is the right thing to do. I mean, we have, as Ben mentioned, we have changed the focus of our parks staff from maintenance and trying to keep up with deferred maintenance to actually trying to grow our parks, grow participation in our programming, and they're doing a fantastic job. And this, to me, is just the next step. You know, when we talk about our parks millage, there's two big investments that we make with the funds that the taxpayers have so graciously allowed us to utilize. Obviously, number one, our hard assets, investment in our property, maintaining our parks and developing our parks. But number two, just like here at the county, it's our people. It's investing in our staff and putting them in the right positions, giving them the right structure and the right support to be able to do what we're asking them to do. And that's how you keep people. You know, Ben made a great point, which is this isn't something that we just threw together here when we hired a new parks director. This is something we've been talking about and discussed at this committee, I believe, last month. And, you know, there was discussion in the Parks Work Group, as to Joe's point, which I can appreciate, you know, to waiting to get some feedback from the director, considering that we were hiring a new director at the same time we were discussing this, and just, you know, having his support on this. I understand, I agree, Joe, it's hard to give full support when you've only been somewhere for 7 days, but he's been in this role before in other areas, and he's seen this work and stands behind it. And I think it aligns the people with what we're asking them to do, and that makes sense. And hopefully it helps us to keep the staff that we have, because Ben's right, I mean, Chad's right, everybody's right about this. These guys are fantastic. They've done such an amazing job. I've been so impressed from the get-go. These are things that we were, quite frankly, in our work group, we were asking for this stuff before from our previous director, and it's just nice to see that we're seeing that, because we're never gonna grow our parks and do the things that the people expect us to do if we keep doing the same old thing, which unfortunately, that was kind of what we were doing. And so I appreciate all the work that all the staff has put into this and all the thoughts, and I think that it's time to move in this direction. I think we need to set them up for success right now, not wait a year down the road and then look at this restructure. So I'm supportive of this, and I'm willing to move this on to Ways and Means, and I would do that now.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other comments or, no? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you.
I think one no, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Oh, actually, there's two of me, so 2 no's. My evil twin brother's here today, too.
We're on to finance report.
Yeah,
They're in the packet,
wanna scroll it, financial report, sorry.
not in this packet.
Oh, it's not in this packet.
It's in their packet, but
in
it's
their
not in
packet.
the one that's uploaded.
So the financial report should be there. I believe that there's close to 3 million in the fund still. Again, this goes to the work that Chad and Alex will do along with Ben to begin spending that money in a responsible and efficient manner. Chad has a lot of ideas. Alex, obviously coming on board, is looking at the things that are lacking. Ethan has really stepped up and looked at the parks. So I think you'll start to see some money being spent and some recommendations for park attendance to ensure that we have safety in all of the parks. Some gates and closure hours at Lake Crandall. Clara, first time we met with her, phenomenal. You saw what she had in the packet. Her programs will start amping up. Hopefully, if we do some changes to have more space for programs, we'll be able to offer the programs to more kids. Again, that's costing money, but that's the whole intent of that millage.
Okay. Yes, Blake.
And I'm looking forward to the programs part of it. You know, our park system always has been summer, winter, and in the winter, things sort of petered out, and we had some snowshoeing and maybe some skiing, but really didn't have a lot of opportunities. But now we had part-time people doing it. Now we have more resources allocated, and I'm hoping that even though we don't have a facility to do inside stuff, we might find a place to do some of that inside stuff, because programming needs to be ongoing throughout the year, not just between Labor Day and Memorial Day. So I'm looking forward to some of those changes.
Okay, yes.
not to give Logan another task here, but I think the team between Clara and Logan, I think it'd be really cool to see Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, like just cool promotions. Cause like we have the folks that will come. It's just like, you know, as my sister found out, it's like, oh, I didn't know that this was going on. And fortunately, millennials and Gen Z were glued to our social media. So like, yeah, to get some of that promotion out there, like the people will come because we have cool stuff. So yeah, just.
One of the things that was discussed at the last Parks Work Group was just that, and ensuring that we have a better presence where the parks can actually start adding things to it, where Clara has access and Ethan has access, and they can start putting that programming out there, because that was very much lacking.
Because not to disparage other counties around us, but if we did that, no other county's doing that. Ingham County's not doing it. So like, yeah, we could totally set ourselves apart. So we could be cool.
I think you'll see some pretty amazing things happening.
Dance contest at Fitzgerald Park.
I'm not going to be there. Wayne Dines.
Okay, we're, finance report?
Yes, we're good.
We're good.
On to miscellaneous. On to miscellaneous.
Yes, oh, okay,
And
miscellaneous.
no miss.
I would just let everybody know there will be a notice in the paper this weekend for all of the open positions on the committees we have. We've directed people to the website and come up with definitions for all the ones, and if there are any requirements to those. So that will be in the paper this weekend for people to fill out citizen involvements.
Any other miscellaneous?
No.
Limited public comments? None? Is there a motion to adjourn? Support? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Great, thank you very much. I think we had